Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Joe. Good morning. How are you?
Great. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Great to meet you. Where are you located?
I'm in the Hudson Valley of New York State.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri.
Great.
Well, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out. And I want to begin our conversation with what we've lived through for the last 3.5 years, which has been a global pandemic. How did you get through it, and how has it changed you?
Yeah, well, I would say that, my first response when the pandemic hit was to lie on my couch and not move for a week.
Yeah,
And I oscillated between being terrified
yeah,
and um, and looking at my bookshelf going, maybe this is the time I can read
yes.
everything on my shelf. But then everything really, really quickly shifted. I'm a yoga teacher. It immediately went online. I like cleared out my living room and I was like teaching from my living room. Like all of a sudden I really like rolled off the couch going, okay, really? How does this work?
Yeah,
How do you going from like being so in person and hands on and like meeting people like face to face, connecting with them. I couldn't, I was like, this is weird. I'm
yeah,
looking at a computer screen trying to help people with like they do a yoga session, but it was an adaptive process,
yeah,
and it worked. The most important thing was like, okay, this is happening. Face the reality, adapt, change, shift. You got to get creative, right? So that happened for me there, and then I was also a coach. But I was new. I was brand new at coaching. But all of a sudden, that became a a need. I had some clients who weren't able to continue because their jobs were, immediately like stopped,
yeah.
right? And so that was very traumatic for them in that respect, and they couldn't invest anymore. And then there are other people who were less affected, but still really needed to, still affected in other ways emotionally, and needed to focus on their mental and emotional health. And so there was, I think it revealed a lot about us collectively as a society, how we respond to each other, how we care for each other, how we adapt to large scale challenges.
Yeah. For sure. So let me boil down exactly what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career
Yeah.
day. And one of the
Okay.
kids curiously asks you, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Oh, yeah, I would love that. Well, I would say to them, do you ever feel lost or angry or scared? And do you ever feel stuck and like you don't know what to do in that situation? And I would say that adults feel that way too, believe it or not. And I help adults work through that so that they can really show up in the world for their friends, for their family, for you, for brothers and sisters. Yeah.
So let's roll the wave back and find out how we got here. Tell me about where you were born and raised and the seeds of growing up that made you want to help people and made that your profession.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was born in Texas. I was raised in Utah, and I would say that the seeds of me wanting to make this shift didn't really happen until quite a bit later in my life. I had the end of a 5-year relationship, and I was engaged. And when I turned 30, and that the ending of that relationship was both the like very traumatic to me, and also the ended up being the greatest gift for reflecting the fallacy of a lot of beliefs I was holding onto that was not serving me. And I would say it's it's both that event happening to me and combined with the luck of being matched with a therapist who's really like a coach to me, um, who is able to really at that time shift things for me. And it, I was completely backwards about so much of the way I was, how I thought about things, and really, I after working with this coach for a couple of years, a lot more than just healing that relationship transformed for me. So that happened, but also in that process, I no longer needed to be on Ritalin. I'd been diagnosed with ADD when I was a teenager. And so that just, it just disappeared. It was not something I was trying to stop taking. It's just something I would forget to take because I no longer needed it because
Yeah.
I had addressed the core issue through these coaching sessions, and and then it kept going and thriving, and I started applying it into multiple areas of my life, and I encountered a lot of different people, a lot of different psychologies, a lot of different so I took it out of the realm of just, it's always inner work, but
Yeah.
I took it into like, how far can I take this? How far can I go with
Right.
this in so many different areas? And finally, after 10 years of this, I thought, well, let me, I kind of feel like I've integrated, internalized like so much of this knowledge. I'd like to share this. I'm starting to see the gaps in people around me and how they're struggling. I was like, gosh, like let's get into this work when you're ready or when it's time.
Yeah.
And because these limitations you're seeing in yourself, and I get it because I have them for myself. We all have these blind spots.
Yeah.
um, there's just to see people break through them. Ugh, wow.
Yeah.
what a,
Absolutely.
what a what a I'm sure you have experience with this yourself as well.
Yeah,
Is it?
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream to grow up and become?
In the third grade. Gosh, how old are you when you're in the third grade?
Probably 8 or 9 years old.
I think I wanted to be a paleontologist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you pursue it at all, or was it just kind of something that you thought about when you were younger?
I think just something I thought about when I was younger. It was always variation of a scientist
Yeah.
of some sort. I really love being outdoors and being in nature and like studying things and understanding how they worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who's been a hero for you in your life?
Hmm. Well, I would say that that coach that I got connected to, absolutely. He, that yeah, hands down, like the biggest shift and change, in my life. I feel like I was really rescued from myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now, someone that's inspirational or that you admire, and spend some time with them, who would it be?
Hmm. I I'm always very much drawn to people who have this resilience and integrity and commitment out of a seemingly very impossible circumstances. So I'm thinking of someone like Malala Yousafzai,
Yeah.
who was that young woman who, I think it was, 14 years ago or so, she was shot in the face by the
Yeah.
Taliban. And she used that tragedy to really advocate for girls' education in Pakistan, which is Wow, what an amazing person. I'd love to meet her. I'd love to meet her parents. Man, who like how does somebody have that sort of resilience in that, under those circumstances?
For sure. So
Mm-hmm.
let me ask you this, as someone that obviously gives a lot to help people out, what is
Mm-hmm.
your motivation every day? What gets you out of bed? What gets you to want to help people and to be who you are?
Yeah, I mean, I think I see a lot of injustice, and I see a lot of people not knowing how to treat each other well. And I see also people not um, buying into their limitations, um, and and really wanting to thrive, but feeling like they can't get there. So I my mission is to really help people break free of that anxiety, and fear and those illusions that they're carrying, so that they can step into what is authentic for them. And who knows how that, I feel like that's when people's unique intelligence and creativity and power gets unleashed. I don't even know how it's going to show up.
Yeah,
And I don't think any of us do until
yeah.
we really focus and connect to that part of ourselves. It's a, it's sort of a magical process of
Just
what's possible.
absolutely. So speaking of that process, what's
Yeah.
been one of your favorite success stories?
Oh, I have to say it was a man that came to me who didn't want therapy. He wanted a coach. He was like, I don't need therapy, but I have this intense stress in my life. And I was like, okay, like what's going on? And he had taken up this position as head of a at a major university in a chemistry department, and was very overwhelmed by conflicting personalities and dynamics within the department, and sort of befuddled by some of the challenges of that were going on, and just feeling overwhelming stress around it. It was affecting him in a lot of areas of his life. So I helped him like really uncover what was going on there, and have the confidence of how to relate to people and how to make decisions, how to move forward effectively, and on and tap into his own intelligence, his own knowledge base. He's very, very intelligent person, and he didn't trust his own judgment or his own ability to relate to all the different characters in the department. And he really made a huge shift. Like, that completely turned around. He really became confident in himself. He really started to enjoy showing up, where he went from dreading like his position to like, oh, I'm actually enjoying myself now. And he this was unexpected to both of us, everybody really, is that he, by moving through that, working out of that, so he's on top of his anxiety, it's not on top of him.
Yeah.
He can access like his own creative intelligence or creativity that's
Hmm.
unique to him, and he was actually able to solve a problem in the department that had plagued the department for like over a decade. So that that's one of my favorite stories. Like,
Yeah.
even a couple years later, he's still messaging me about it.
Oh, excellent.
How grateful he is for it. So yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 20-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life. What advice would you dispense on that younger version of you?
Invest in your mental health. Immediately, right away. It's the absolute. I feel like had I been introduced to that coach, that therapist when I was 30, if I had been introduced when I was 20 and had the resource, that's where I needed to put my resources. My 20s would have been completely different.
Yeah.
It always ends up feeling like, oh wow, had I known sooner,
Yeah.
had I known how to be confident, how to um, where to focus. I was focusing so much on the external, like making sure I was, my career was getting off the ground, like that I was in the right relationship, that I was getting married, that I was, going. Not that, no, there's nothing wrong with any of those things. It was that I was focused on the external and not the internal.
Yeah.
In part because I had no there were no resources, or I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So,
that's what I would say. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So, of all of the things that you've done so far in your life, what are you the proudest of?
What am I the proudest of? Um, I I think maybe the most recently, I had a vision to uh, build this art piece. It was a giant instrument. It's a 60-foot harp, and the idea was I wanted this experience of it was inspired by this original sound artist from the 80s, Ellen Fullman, and um, the it's a very unusual experience to be in the vibration of this, and I wanted, and there was, I thought it would just be wonderful to um, build that, or experience that, but it would require quite a collective effort. It wasn't like I personally had the skills to do that.
Yeah.
um, and I connected with a local creative collective who all became inspired by the idea, and then they all jumped on board. Let's build this thing. We don't know what it is, we don't know how. Let's do this because it's going to be fun and we're going to create something together. And so it wasn't for any purpose other than building community around creating art.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the thing I'm most proud of
Right on. Right on.
right now.
So,
Yeah.
in all of these circles, everybody sees you in a certain light, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I certainly have a lot of integrity to follow the path that makes the most sense for me. And it just doesn't look like any other, like a traditional path. And and I think that is in part because of my ADD, would put me in, if I don't connect to that place, I lose focus. But so when I connect to myself, I have that high. It establishes this high level of integrity, and then I value my relationships, my clients, like, I kind of, like I have their back. Like I'm there for them, in the most important ways. Like I care very deeply about the well-being of everybody that I come into. So um, that I know for myself to be true, and It's okay how other people experience me in all the different ways that they do. I'm sorry, I lost the volume.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So if anyone out there wants to reach out to you, learn more about you, anything about what you do, hire you, what's the best way to do that?
Oh, I'm definitely on Instagram at Jessica Berry Coaching, or my website, jessicaberry.com. And those are the best ways to reach me or connect with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. This has been great, Jessica. Thank you so much for your story. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank
It's
you.
really having a wonderful time. I love that background.